Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Abhidha Dhumatkar, HOD History, Sathaya College. This is the recording of the lecture of Mr. Vishal Katkar, who will be talking about medieval architecture, Sultanate architecture, Delhi and regional styles. I'm handing over to Vishal Katkar. Let me introduce Vishal Katkar first. He was our past student and a very brilliant student. He taught in TY not only in history in Mumbai University but entire university. And now he is doing his MA with history. Now I'm inviting Vishal to talk.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for a pleasant introduction. So, am I audible to you, everyone?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
And
sir.
is my screen visible to all of you? Students, please respond.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So, I will begin. As you can see that today's presentation topic that I will be discussing about is architecture of Delhi and Deccan Sultanate, and topic is basically the main theme is architecture of Delhi Sultanate and Deccan Sultanate, and the period which I am going to emphasize on the 1000 CE to 1526 Common Era and the regional styles of South India. And topic is basically main core topic that I will be focusing on the introduction of to Indo-Islamic architecture of Delhi Sultanate period and Deccan Sultanate period with some early Rajput architecture. Yes. So myself, I am Vishal Katkar, the postgraduate history student, Department of History and University of Mumbai. I am studying in part 2 MA. As you can see the first second slide, the photograph of the magnificent kind of when it comes to the India's heritage, the basically the main the photo or main kind of that the grandiloquence which the Indian tourism industry which showcases is the Qutub Minar. As you can see the Qutub Minar. So yes, basically I want to clarify my presentation topic that I will be explaining you about the basically the period of Delhi Sultanate, North and Deccan Sultanate. Basically, Delhi Sultanate in we know that the all Turkish kind of the kingdoms, basically the slave dynasty, basically Mamluk dynasty, Khilji dynasty, Tughlaq dynasty, Said dynasty and Lodi dynasty, which I will be covering as in the map. Basically, in third slide, I want to make you clarify about the region, the period which I will be focusing about is basically the Sultanate period. As you can see in the index, the period starts with 1100 century to 1400 century by the invasion of the all Turkish the rulers, Turkish invaders, and second the very second part or second kind of the focus is about the regime of the Deccan Sultanate. So you can see in the green part, the green region of the South India, the basically which called as the Karnataka, Maharashtra, the basically Bahmani kingdoms and the Deccan Sultanate, which comes as a Bijapur, Daulatabad, Ahmednagar, Golconda, and Warangal. This part I'm focusing about these two Indo-Islamic architectural heritage of India, and little bit about the Rajput because early Rajput kingdoms, as we know, that in political condition we have studied the Rajput kingdoms of Chalukyas, of Anilwara. Then there were Prithviraj, the Chauhans of Ajmer. Then basically Gadwals of Kannauj and Parmars of Mara. So little bit I am going to focus about the early Rajput kingdom, which were comes under the by the end of the 14th century. I will be not covering any aspect of the Mughal architecture, because as we see, the Mughal is kind of the mature phase of the Islamic architecture, and Mughal is completely different state of the discipline. So basically my intention to show you the maps in the first slide is to make you clarify about the region and about the period which I will be covering the heritage, the architecture about. So I will begin. Yes. So yes. First, I want to explain. Oh, yes. The first I want to explain you about in the beginning only that difference between the medieval and ancient Indian architecture is basically very important to understand and to kind of comprehend basically what are the features, what are the architectural features of the medieval period, which we call that this is part of this monument belongs to medieval architecture. This monument belongs to ancient architecture. So it's very important to clarify in historical terms, in historical chronology, that uh, uh, what are the different characteristic elements that distinguishes the ancient period from medieval period. This is very important that we should understand. So first point of the difference, you can see in the column of ancient Indian architecture, is basically the rock cut caves, the monuments which comes under the periphery of the ancient India, is basically the first rock cut caves. Second is the ancient temples, and third are the ancient stepwells. So these are the prominent kind of the monuments which are the part of the ancient heritage or ancient architecture. So this is very important. And the second, yes, on the other hand, the monuments which come under the period of the medieval era is basically you can see the n number of kind of the monuments which started kind of building and started kind of the erecting on the lands of the Indian soil. So basically, the first is basically as we see the medieval era. So first thing that comes into mind is basically the Islamic period. As Islamic period, it was not only Islamic period, but it was we should call it as Indo-Islamic. It was a saga. It was a saga of the Hindu and Islam, but prominently we see the emergence of kind of the kind of the political uh, the period or political governance or monarchic period by the Islamic rulers, prominently in the Delhi in north and some parts in the Deccan. Uh, um, so basically, the first thing that comes to the mind when we call as the medieval period, the first is that the rulers, the Islamic rulers. So first is mosque, second is a tomb, third is a fort, fourth is a palace, fifth is a mausoleum, sixth is a stepwell. Now, see, in earlier presentation, those who have attended, in the initial slides, I have told you the kind of the terminology used for the stepwells. For the ancient period, it was a bara, and in kind of the medieval period, it changed to the kund tankas. Then seventh is again most important is the minaret. Eighth is the gateways. Then these are called the charbagh gardens, madrasa, and medieval temples. So these are the prominent 11 kind of the architectural, yes, architectural monuments and architectural edifices of the medieval period. Second difference of ancient and medieval architecture is basically ancient architecture, it evolved in the various regions of the India in Gupta period, in Mauryan dynasty, and other Satvahana period, as you can see in Cholas in south, in Chalukyas in again Maharashtra, and again if you see Pallavas in down in the South India basically. So it evolved in various regions of the India. But if you see the medieval Indian architecture, it evolved after the advent of Islam. This is very important point that we should know. The architecture which basically initiated or kind of launched in the Indian soil is basically because of the introduction of the new religion. It was a religion from the West India, Western kind of the world, and Middle East, and results into the Byzantine, Persian, Mesopotamian architecture. So if we go to the other parts of the world, in Iran, in Iraq, and in Middle East countries, then we will see that you can see the mosque, you can see the minarets, tombs, but it has evolved into different styles. So one of the Asian style which we are going to focus, we are going to learn about the Indian architecture if, of medieval. It's completely Asian. It's Indian in origin because it has kind of the amalgamated with the Indian Hindu styles. But if we go to the other parts, Afghanistan, in Middle East countries, in Saudi Arabia, in all Stan countries in North, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, that countries you can see the mosque. There are the monuments which are mosques, tombs, palaces, forts, but it has a different kind of the architectural elements. So it has kind of it got classified into the various styles according to the geographical region, such as Byzantine in the Western India, northwest part, the Persian again in the after the kind of the annexation of the Iran by the and by the Islamic rulers, and again Mesopotamian architecture, which is again the Sumerian architecture. So it has different sides. Third difference, basically, that we should know is basically the ancient Indian architecture. It was Trapezoid style. What is meant by Trapezoid style? Trapezoid style. I will after this difference kind of the distinguished. I will explain you the glossary of the architectural medieval architecture, which is used in. We should know. We should understand the meanings of architectural elements. So Trapezoid style means basically all the temples are kind of basically there are kind of horizontal post and lintel method. What is post and lintel method means pillar. One there is a kind of vertical pillar and horizontal pillar. This is a basic kind of the architectural strategy, architectural construction method they employed in the ancient period. So it was kind of the vertical pillar, vertical column, and horizontal column, horizontal beam. So vertical beam and horizontal pillar. So this is called a Trapezoid style. What is called an arcuate style? The acute style of architecture basically arch, prominent arches. So medieval architecture is basically completely based on the introduction of the all types of the arches. So it is basically arch prominent, arch dominant, and in the temple we see the temple in temple architecture there is basically all kind of the pillars, columns. Columns are absent. These are not. We can see the absence of columns in medieval period because even there is a temple. There is a kind of the Nagara style of architecture. There is Dravida temple architecture, Hoysala architecture. So temples are also they had a part of the medieval Indian architecture, but we should not call this as purely kind of the Islamic architecture, but it is Indo-Islamic. It is a saga of Indian and Islamic kind of the features. So that's why we can see the many monuments, many palaces in Agra in Mughal style. You can see kind of the prominent kind of there is a outpouring of the Indian style, Hindu style of the architecture because the masons they used, the masonry which employed for kind of the constructions, it was prominently Hindu masons. Even though the rulers were Islamic by the religion, but all population it was majorly Hindu. So we should not forget that medieval period as a completely Islamic period, it was Indo-Islamic period. So the next difference is basically temples mostly decorated because temples it was prominent part of the ancient architecture of the India, and in medieval times we see the palaces and forts and tombs and mosques became the prominent. So the temples were mostly decorated with the images of the living beings, such as the animals, icons of the god, goddesses, symbols of the kind of the religious things, such as the Padma, Chakra, Swastika, Kalasha, as a Hindu symbols, Hindu religious symbols. When we see when we see the representations of in medieval, on the other hand, in medieval architecture, we can see the representation of the living beings is prohibited completely in the Islam religion. So Indo-Islamic architecture was completely based on calligraphy, geometric and floral motifs, different types of the geometrical shapes such as square, circle, octagon, pentagon, this kind of the geometrical shapes. And again, we see not only the engravings and for decoration purposes, but the architecture is also kind of the fountains they employed in these rectangular, squarish, octagonal platforms. And the calligraphy is very important, that we can see the inscriptions are engraved on the which are beautifully kind of the engraved with inlaid stonework, precious stone method. When we, at the other part of the presentations, I will be explaining you the different art techniques. So it is completely calligraphy and floral motifs and geometrically designs based. Then basically most important difference between ancient architecture, brackets. What are the brackets? Brackets are kind of those support for kind of the joints which are kind of used to bind or used to ligate the horizontal beam and vertical pillar. Simple thing. It's like the it functions as a kind of the binding mortar and line. So horizontal brackets, these are kind of the architectural ornament used to bind the horizontal pillars and vertical pillars. Very simple in ancient style. And in the medieval style, you can see the arches, and arches, domes, and vaults basically used. So basically, you see for constructing mosque, for construction of the tomb, basically not the pillars, not the brackets are used. Basically, arches and domes are used. Domes are a kind of the semicircular, semi-hemispherical kind of the vaulting roof that binds the finial to the lower part of the pavilion of the mosque or either for the tomb. So this is very important. Domes are not for only for ornamenting, for decorating, or kind of the symbol of the Indo-Islamic architecture, but it is used. It was also used to ligate, to kind of the to bind that two parts, two architectural parts of the upper finial. So you can see in Taj Mahal from the Mughal period, you can see there is a on the tomb there is a kind of a sloping gable. Gable is a kind of the shikhara. So you can prominently it is kind of the visible that you can see the in temples also it has a kalasha on the top. Basically, you can see any temple. There is a kalasha on the top of the shikhara. So similarly, in the tombs also there is a kind of the pointing roof, pointing kind of the capstone, which is also called as a finial, which is again you see in the Islamic kind of the architectural monument. So this is the prominent that this is very kind of the fusion of the Indian Hindu style and fusion of the basically fusion of Hindu Indian styles and Islamic style. So domes and walls are used. Basically, this is very again prominent difference between ancient Indian architecture and medieval architecture. Is mostly ancient architecture was mostly religious and regional. It was mostly religious. The step wells have got kind of the significance in terms of the religion for rituals and everything. Temples are basically kind of houses that deities and icons and for worship. And even the caves used by for which kind of the constructed or dug out during the Buddhist period also used as a chaitya gruha, and basically so prayer halls. So chaityas and basically these are community halls. So used to to reside. The monks were Buddhist monks were residing during their kind of the varshavas, during their seasonal kind of the migration. So you can see in any even if it is Buddhist rock cut cave, if it is Hindu temple or Jain temple or it is stepwell, you can see the religion part is always kind of attached to that any of the monument. But in medieval architecture, there is a kind of the variety. We see the diversity in the kind of the heritage and architectural monuments. We see the religious architecture, whether it's we have seen the Mount Abu Dilwara temple or kind of the Brihadeshwar temple in South India, Meenakshi temple in Madurai or Konark temple. We see the religious architecture also. Again, in terms of Hindu mosque, which have constructed the Jami Masjid. Again, these are the prominent mosque, congregational prayers, huge kind of the massive mosque constructed during the Sultanate period and basically during Mughal period. So we see the mosque as a for again it has a for religious construction, religious architectural element. Then there is imperial architecture when we call as a Delhi Sultanate, the basically Sultanate. So Delhi has a variety of the entire Qutub Minar complex. Then again we see the minarets, we see the palaces, we see the palatial complexes, all these kind of the imperial. Again in imperial, then we see the defensive and military architecture also. There is a kind of the rise, there is an emergence of the defensive and military architecture. So there was one theory according to formation of these states and kingdoms. So that theory basically that forces that wars are kind of the primitive kind of the force. Wars are basically primitive factors of the force that kind of that leads to the formation of the states by waging the wars. As you have studied in SY, that basically all kind of the in Mahajanpada period, there were the wars which waged for the cows and for the kind of the cattle herds. Then slowly, as expansion of that states into the kingdoms, the wars were kind of turned out into the formation of the huge kingdoms and for kind of the political annexations of the territories. So you see that there is a kind of the need for kind of the protection of the town. It had arisen in the medieval period, since the early medieval period. So the entire town was fortified by the kind of the citadel, and forts were constructed for the royal period, royal household. So we see the imperial architecture, we see the defensive architecture, military architecture of forts. So as I hope that you have cleared with both the differences of ancient Indian architecture and medieval Indian architecture. So I will move further. Yes. Now, basically, in the slide, you can see the characteristics of the Sultanate architecture. This is very important that we should know what are the characteristic features of the Sultanate architecture. So, when I am talking about Sultanate architecture, it's basically from Delhi and Delhi Sultanate. So there are different regional styles also, which has different kind of the architectural elements, which I will talk about later on. The first basically characteristic that we see the mixture of Indian and Iranian style of architecture. Don't forget that it is basically the mixture of Indian style, the Hindu style, and it has a kind of the Turkish influence, Iranian style of the architecture in from Middle East. The basically second difference that when we'll see the Qutub Minar, or when we'll see the Quwatul Islam Mosque, or when we see the kind of different types of the monuments, basically Allah Adai Ka Jhopra in Ajmer. Then we see the Alai Darwaza, which was the ambitious scheme of the Alauddin Khilji. Or when we see kind of the city wall of the Siri, or we can see the tomb and mothers of the Alauddin Khilji, or Alai Minar of Alauddin Khilji, or any of the monuments, Lodhi tombs, tomb of the Ghiazuddin Tughlaq, fort of Tughlaqabad. These all are kind of the throughout the kind of the Delhi Sultanate, the monuments which erected and which constructed throughout the different kind of the dynastic rules of the Sultanate from the Delhi, which ruled it. All this kind of the monuments constructed very kind of, we see very kind of the Dasilian, very kind of in the spirit of the laziness, because all the construction of buildings they constructed with the material of the Hindu temple ruins. So they basically what they did, all the rulers, whether it's Lodhi dynasty, whether it's Alauddin Khilji, whether it's Qutbuddin Aibak, any of the rulers, Ghiazuddin Tughlaq, Firoz Shah Tughlaq, all the rulers which we know, all the rulers kind of first destroyed. They destroyed the entire that Hindu temples, and on the basis of same materials they used, and after kind of the destroying that monument, Hindu temple basically, they constructed kind of, they modified that monument, that ruined structure, architectural remain into their tombs and mosque and kind of the other gateways and that thing, madrasa. So basically, this is kind of not kind of the original style. We are not seeing the original kind of the pure style of the Islamic architecture, but it is kind of the constructed by the ruined remains of the Hindu temples. Third main important characteristic, that pointed arches. There are different kind of the arches which I will be talking about. So there are kind of the multifolial arch. Then there is a kind of the ogee arch. Then there are kind of the which is a horseshoe type of the arch. So these are different types of the arches which used. But these arches are again pointed in all you can see the Muslim structures. Fourth important characteristic is basically carving. We see the carvings of the various floral motifs and various geometrical patterns and carvings of the, again inscriptions we see in Persian and in Arabic language. So carvings are a very important characteristic element in the medieval period. The fifth important characteristic that all the kind of the Islamic medieval architecture, Indo-Islamic architecture, they used the stones and lines. Basically, they use the stones and lines for construction. So when we talk about the geological kind of the influence of the regional architectural styles, we see the kind of different use of the utilization of the stones from the quarries which they dug in the local region and the lime which they used as a binding material. Cement was it lime means, as you know, it is a calcium carbonate they use as a for construction of or for binding of any type of the monument. So then we see the sixth important characteristic figure is basically geometrical design. They use various pentagon also. They are basically not only designs, but their entire monument was constructed in the kind of the pentagon, octagon, hexagonal structure. The entire kind of the monument and the periphery complex, it has again divided into the charbak style. So charbak style, you see the entire the garden or the plan was kind of the constructed by dividing the four quadrants, four parts equally in the square shapes. And the monument, as we see in the Humayun's tomb in Mughal period, and basically, uh, and the Taj Mahal in the Delhi, Taj Mahal in Agra, and Humayun's tomb in Delhi. So all these we see the prominent type of the Charbakh style. So you see there is a kind of geometrical designs they employed for construction of the minaret. They use proper octagonal shape, conical shape of the minaret. So it has kind of not only carvings, not only kind of the designs on the monument, but also the entire monument was constructed. If it is Gol Gumbaz in Bijapur or kind of the Ibrahim Rosa, it has a different kind of the geometrical pattern for construction of the mosque, for construction of the tomb, or any kind of the mausoleum. Then we see the Quranic ayats. These are engraved on the monument. This is very important that religion, they have kind of the fanatically Muslims, all rulers, as we see, as we know that they waged the holy wars. So basically, they all the rulers were kind of the fanatically and fanatic for their religious zeal. So you see the whether it is fort, whether it is fort in Nardurga, in Usmanabad, whether the forts in Dawlatabad, whether you see the tomb or mosque in Delhi. So all kind of it has a kind of the Quranic ayahs engraved on the niche where the prayer hall is there, where the kind of Muslims they used to prostrate while kind of doing while performing their namaz, while performing the namaz, or when they are on the prostration. So that time they used to face towards the direction of the Mecca, where the arch. So that arch is again kind of the decorated or kind of engraved with all Quranic ayats. So you see the Quranic ayats are engraved on any type of any sort of the Indo-Islamic monument. Then seventh important characteristic feature that all the Turkish sultans started the new style of constructing the places of worship by desecrating the temples and constructing the mosque out of them. This is very important, and we should understand that when we are talking about when we are talking about the Humayun's tomb or Agra fort or any kind of this places, these are kind of the magnificent and very pure in the style of their architectural heritage. Like they have attained the kind of the zenith in terms of architecture. But we are kind of focusing when we're talking about the early medieval period about Delhi Sultanate. This is very prominent feature that all the Turkish sultans they didn't start or they didn't kind of commission the entirely the new construction like the Fatehpur Sikri when when Akbar have kind of constructed the entire new city um, in the vicinity of the Agra, which is called as Fatehpur Sikri, the city of victory. So it was completely new city, and it was completely the plan and design employed by the Mughal, kind of the Mughal masonry, by the Mughal kind of the rulers or Mughal emperors. But when we see the city of Tughlaqabad commissioned by the Tughlaq rulers, or Delhi Qutub Minar complex, we see the all the sultans, they kind of constructed their monuments out of the. It is like the making something best from out of west. So it is like they firstly they kind of destroyed, they desecrated the images, they desecrated the icons. So these rulers are these Delhi Sultanate architecture is basically called as iconoclastic. What is meant by iconoclastic? Iconoclastic means they kind of they destroyed the our Hindu deities and icons, idols, sculptures, and constructed the mosque out of them. So this is very important that the basic architectural elements of the Sultanate period. Hello, audience. Is everything clear to you up till now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, understood.
Yes,
Any
sir.
doubt? Please ask. Please ask if any doubt you have. Understood everything. The basic characteristic of the Sultanate architecture and Indo-Islamic architecture elements. Basic characteristics. Have you understood everything?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, okay. So I will move further. Yes. Now see, I will start with the tomb architecture. This is very important that you can see this is the anyone can tell me the which monument you can it is visible from the slide. Which monument is this?
Taj Mahal.
Yes, Taj Mahal. So basically, I will start with the tomb architecture. This is very important that we should understand what is a tomb. So in simple definition, I would like to define the tomb is basically the container. It is basically the monument or container which holds the kind of the remains of the deceased person. Means it is a kind of the burial chamber. It is basically the kind of the grave. On that grave, the monument is constructed by kind of surmounting the dome. So this is the tomb. For tomb, you can see the on the top you can see the finial. Finial is again similar to the kind of for ornamentation, for ornamenting the entire monument. It is similar to the shikhara. So this is the very prominent style of the Indo-Islamic architecture element. Terminating part of that monument or dome, it is called as a finial. Then downwards you can see there is a lotus decoration. What is lotus decoration? Lotus decoration is kind of the Hindu symbol that was employed. Lotus means you can see this part. So this lotus decoration is basically the lowermost part of the finial. In temple it is called as amalaka, which kind of binds the kalasha with the shikhara. So it is amalaka part. So similar in tomb architecture, you see the finial. Finial is again kind of the capstone which surmounts the dome, and mostly the capstone it has a kind of the moon shape, kind of the crescent shape thing, and it is basically metallic thing. We should know that even if temples we go, even you see the any temple or any mosque around yours, around kind of in vicinity, you see that topmost part is metallic part. Either it is in temples, it can be gold, it can be kind of the gilded with the gold or silver, or in Islam also, in Islamic architecture also, it can be gold, or any other metal, brass. So this is very important capstone or finial. It is very important part of the tomb architecture, which kind of surmounts the dome. Second lowermost part element of the tomb architecture is lotus. What is it is called as lotus decoration because again it has a kind of the metallic kind of the construction, and it has a kind of from top. If you see that thing, if you see the monument, if you see that tomb from the aerial side, from the kind of from the sky, so you can see that it has a kind of the circular thing. It has kind of circular thing, and it has a the decoration or kind of the engravings of the lotus, like petals. These are completely surrounded by the petals. So you can see this not only the tomb in Taj Mahal, but also the tomb of the Humayun's tomb, also the tomb of the Gol Gumbaz, Half Gumbaz, the tomb of Ali buried in Bidar. So even in regional styles, you can see the lotus decoration is very important that you see this is again Hindu style or also Islamic, because in Islam there is a complete prohibition of kind of engravings and kind of using any human figurines or kind of the deities. So basically, they use floral designs, flowers, floral patterns, different types of geometrical shapes. So this is the lotus decoration. Lotus decoration again that holds the support pillar of the finial, and that again it is a binding part for the onion drum, and the finial or capstone in the top. So then the third part we see the onion dome. The onion dome is basically very important that you see the onion dome is kind of hemispherical structure. It's kind of the 180 degree hemispherical structure, and it has a kind of again the ogee type of the arch. You see this one arch, you see this one arch. So there are kind of the two arches you see, kind of the very gently sloping two arches on from right hand side and left hand side, and by kind of topping on the top, the topping of the capstone or the finial, which is again metallic, and that's the top part of that onion dome. It has a kind of the onion shaped structure. That is why it is called as onion dome. And onion dome is basically again it has a kind of surmounted by on the top by the lotus decoration, which is again the metallic decoration with the petals are engraved. Lower part of the onion dome, you see the drum. What is drum? Again, drum is kind of the floral kind of the. It is also called as a merlon. You see in the medieval fort architectural terminology, the merlons. Merlons are basically kind of the small cavities, small kind of the basically it is a kind of the fencing material. It is a kind of the fence that is kind of that constitutes on the kind of the rampart on the fortified wall, and that is basically used to merlons are kind of the cavities. So you see it is again kind of the arches type or kind of the uh, basically the semicircular kind of the structure or kind of the holding that balustrade. So balustrade, these are kind of the railing, but it has a kind of the semicircular structure similar to the arches, and again it has a kind of the structure which is similar to the kind of the petals, kind of the floral petals. So basically, these are kind of the belt, like the human as we wear the belt. Similarly, it is a belt that is completely surrounded by the dome, onion dome, and it is a kind of the cylindrical base. It is kind of the cylindrical base of the onion dome, and as you see in other in lowermost part, onion dome, these merlons are of equal shape and kind of they are not kind of irregular, but they are equidistant. They are kind of constructed on the at the equidistant, and these are also kind of the seen on the main gateways. Also, these merlons are seen in the tombs, also in mosque, also in forts, palaces. Everything merlons are important architectural element of the important architectural ornament of the medieval style, medieval architecture. Then you see that there are on the left hand side, on the right hand side, these are kind of the two kind of the two chhatris. Chhatris, you see again there is a kind of the Hindu influence. You see, chhatris are basically the domed and columned kiosks. What are chhatris? So chhatris are basically this the chhatri again is kind of the common mutual kind of the architectural ornament which is again seen in the palaces. In Agra Fort, you see the chhatri. In Amber Fort in Rajasthan, in Jaipur, you can see the chhatri. Even chhatris are kind of evolved in Maratha period, are used to decorate. The functionally chhatris are kind of the two different, basically in the kind of the samadhis or shrines also for the deceased kind of the heroes and kind of the gallantly rulers. Like we see that there is a kind of historic personalities. There is a shrine of the in Pachad, the Jizabai, the kind of the mother of the Shivaji Maharaj. So again, there is the Chhatris and the Chhatris of Peshwa rulers. So you see the Chhatris are again getting prominence in the later medieval period in the Maharashtra also and in the north. So you see so these architectural ornament it was employed in the early medieval period in the Delhi for kind of concentrating the architectural element of the tomb architecture or mosque. But then the kind of the magnificence of the Chhatri is evolved in the Maratha period and in Deccan period, in late medieval period as a kind of separate monument So this chhatri is basically domed and columned kiosk. Kiosk is again the small kind of the carrel or small kind of the booth. It is kind of the small chamber or small kind of the hall, small room, which is kind of the surmounted by the dome on the top, and again it has a kind of capstone. Then you see the minarets on the four sides. There is an arch you can see. There is a base. The base is again kind of the horizontal platform, similar to the temples that the tombs basically are constructed not on the ground, but they're constructed on the some part of the walls, horizontal kind of the platform. In temple architecture, I would like to relate this thing is with your basically the Jagati. So horizontal platform in the temple architecture is called as the Jagati, and in the it is called as a base. Then there is a kind of Guldasta. Guldasta are kind of small turrets. Small turrets means like minarets or the huge splendid towers, vertical towers. Similarly, Guldasta are kind of the architectural ornament. It is very this kind of a microscopic part that basically surmounted and kind of attached to the main tomb, main kind of the monument tomb, main building on the four sides. And again, it has a kind of the finial at the top. So you see, then there is a main arch. Arch, we see the prominent pointed arch, and on the top, there you can see the calligraphical engravings and kind of geometrical patterns. And yes, then we see the calligraphy on the large pitch stack style, and there is a kind of dado. Dado is again decorated frames. So dado is a kind of similarly ornamentation. So basically, for ornamentation, some different elements, for a kind of construction, different elements. Yes. Now, before going further in deep about tomb architecture, I want to give you some glossary. Please you note down what is a glossary which I will talking about medieval architectural glossary. I will explain one by one basically what is the kind of the what is the kind of the terminology used in architecture. Basically, I will start with the masjid. Masjid or mosque is basically, as we know, that mosque is basically for construct. It is a kind of the religious kind of mosque, as we know that it was initially it was mud brick structure. It was attached, and it has kind of the courtyard, rectangular courtyard, and in that courtyard, basically all the Muslim followers, all Muslim kind of the religious followers, they used to, yes, they used to prostrate, and they used to gather for the 5 days prayer, and facing the direction of the Qibla. The direct Qibla means direction of the prayer. So it is a kind of the monument. It is used for congregational Islamic prayers, or for doing the namaz, for prostration, basically. So this is the first terminology, mosque. Second is mausoleum. Second is mausoleum is basically, what is mausoleum? Mausoleum is kind of the independent structure. It is kind of the independent structure that is built to hold the remains of the deceased person. So it is basically, mausoleum is independent structure, and basically the grave is kind of the form, the kind of the samadhi is there. The grave is formed, but inside the grave there is inside the grave the remains of the deceased person or deceased ruler from the any medieval times is completely absent. So it is kind of the empty tomb. Tomb and mausoleum, basic difference that the tomb has kind of the monument which is constructed on the over the kind of the crypt. Crypt is burial chamber, basically. So tomb and mausoleum both has a kind of the dome, both has a kind of the minaret, both has a kind of the arch, gateways, guldasta, onion dome, finial, all the characteristic elements are there. But important element is basically absent in tomb. Important element absent in the mausoleum. Mausoleum is empty tomb. It doesn't have any kind of the grave. Grave is there, but it is kind of the crypt, that is kind of the burial chamber, is empty. So it is also called as empty tomb. So we should understand there are some monuments which are called as mausoleums, which are basically empty tombs. Only the monument is constructed and grave is there, but it is an empty grave. And second is a tomb. I told you tomb is again the architecture that is basically The tomb is kind of the repository of the remains of the dead person or dead ruler, and it has kind of the constructed in from square to octagonal combination or um, square to rectangular form. So basically, dome is octagonal, and it is a monument which kind of which has a repository of the graves, which is kind of it has the remains of the deceased or dead ruler, dead Islamic ruler or dead. So this is basic difference. Then I will talk about yes. Then I will talk about the Ghera. In when I will talk about the forts, I will explain you about the medieval forts architecture. That time Ghera is kind of the outer boundary. Ghera is kind of the rampart or fortification, outmost boundary that encompass not only the main fort but villages in the vicinity. So there is important that in fort of Tughlaqabad or in Mughal period, the Fatehpur Sikri. So it has a Ghera is not kind of the fort. Ghera is not kind of the fort wall. Ghera is that kind of the fortification or that kind of the rampart that completely surrounded by the which completely encircles the village. Entire village is kind of the fortified. In fort of Tughlaqabad we see, in fort of Bijapur we see the entire kind of the village is kind of the it has a fortified rampart. So that is called Ghera. So basically, as we know, the rampart is again you know that it has a kind of the wall, fort wall. It is kind of the protective wall around the main citadel. And what is called Kada? Kada is again the vertical escarpment. What is a vertical escarpment means? What is a vertical ridge? In Maratha architecture, as you know, that all the forts constructed on the hillside, so it has a kind of vertical escarpment. Then there is a turret. What are turrets? As you see, these guldastas are basically small. So basic difference between minarets and turrets. Turrets are kind of the very smaller versions of the towers. Minarets are kind of the vertical towers, splendid towers, and it has again the kind of the Vigi staircase, and it has a kind of the engraving, it has flutings, and it has a multi-story system. Like the stepwells, like the temples has a different story. First floor, second floor, third floor. Similarly, minaret also has a different kind of the story. So you can see that it has a one, two, three floor system. Again, you see the around Taj Mahal, you see the three floor system. So when I will talk about the Chand Minar and Qutub Minar, you can see the difference between architectural elements of the minaret. Minaret is a vertical tower. It again has attached to the mosque and tomb prominently. And turrets are basically small tower, which are basically kind of ornamenting. These towers are used for ornamenting the main monument above the building basically. So turrets are again very kind of the very splendid and very kind of the slendering kind of the towers, vertical towers, which are surmounting on the building, on monument you can see on either of the fort or either mosque or either tomb. It is not kind of the constructed on the ground. Minarets are kind of the huge, massive and very kind of the bulgy structures which are constructed on the ground, and it is basically attached to the mosque. Minarets and turrets are the small slendering kind of the towers. Then there is a kind of the cenotaph. This is very important that mausoleum is again is called as the mausoleum and cenotaph. Both are similar. Cenotaph is kind of the empty tomb basically. So there are the many kind of the tombs in the medieval rulers. They constructed during their kind of the regime. So during the regime they constructed the tomb, but they were not kind of the cremated. These rulers were not cremated in that tomb. So the monument is termed as the cenotaph. Cenotaph is an empty tomb. Okay. Then what is the Kaaba, or what is the Kaaba? Or Kaaba is very important that we should understand what is the Kaaba. Kaaba, it is the mosque architectural terminology. Mosque architectural terminology basically, Kaaba means the small cubical building. It is a kind of the small kind of the chamber in the courtyard of the great mosque, which faces the direction of the Mecca. So this is called a Kaaba. What is a facade? when we see the word facade, the facade means it is a kind of the frontal or kind of the frontage, front part of the building, front part of the monument. When I see these turrets, so these turrets are kind of the present, they are kind of constructed on the facade. Facade means frontage. What are kiosks? Kiosks are kind of the small areas basically. Kiosks are kind of the small areas which are set off by the walls for special use. Again, kiosks you see that in basically in Buddhist caves also, in temples also, but it has some different names. It has kind of the small chambers, small carrels. But in medieval kind of the Indo-Islamic terminology, we use the word kiosk for basically uh, especially only for the kind of the small chambers or small carrels, small booths, small kind of the rooms, cavities, basically used for the special purpose when it comes to the mosque architecture. Then what is are cupolas? Cupolas are very important that you see the dome. Domes are very important part of the Indo-Islamic architecture. So domes are kind of roof. So we see in the temple architecture, it has a kind of the pyramidal structure. Again, in Buddhist stupa, that hemispherical dome is basically you see it is called as anda. It is called as anda in Buddhist architectural terminologies. In it has a kind of the roof. Cupola is basically the roof, vaulted roof. In Hindu temple architecture, we see the shikhara or vimana or gopuram. These terminology or these words are used for kind of the roofing kind of the material, under the roofing architectural ornament, construction. It is called as the roof basically. And in medieval kind of the terminology, architectural terminology, the cupolas are kind of the roof in the form of dome. This is very important that again it has a vaulted in the sense it has a roof. Again that is my pyramidal, that is hemispherical. So when it comes to temple, the cupola in the form of pyramidal structure. As you imagine the any kind of the structure in front of your eyes of the temple, and when we see the dome, when we see the Taj Mahal, when we see the Gol Gumbaz, when we see the Jama Masjid, all this kind of it has a kind of the dome, onion dome. That dome is kind of the roof, and again it is called as a bulbous roof. In Qutub Shahi and in Deccan Adil Shahi, you see the bulbous dome. Bulbous dome means it is kind of the very bulky in the shape, and it was massive. It is the massive structure. It is massive dome, and it is kind of the protuberant. Protuberant means kind of protruding, kind of the bulky, and that is kind of the projecting outwards, not kind of the compressed from inside. So Taj Mahal dome or Humayun's tomb, as you see, the basically it is kind of the it's not that bulky, but when we see the kind of the Gol Gumbaz in Bijapur style in the Adil Shahi Sultanate in Bijapur Sultan, you see it was bulky and it was kind of the bulbous dome. And as I explained in first initially, the finial is kind of the ornament which at the top of the monument, kind of the kalasha. Then yes, then I will talk about what is pilaster. Pilaster is again when we see the palaces, when we see the mosque, kind of the pavilions, it is kind of a rectangular column. Basically, it is a basically rectangular column that usually projects about the third of its width from the wall. So it is basically a rectangular column. It's not kind of the squarish kind of the shape, squarish. It is basically a rectangular column that usually projects out. Then what is pediment? Pediment, as you see, this completely in Indo-Islamic architectural features. Pediment is kind of the binding material, kind of the binding joint, or kind of the triangular gable between horizontal entablature and sloping roof. All these pediment, pilasters you see basically when there is a kind of Hindu influence of architecture when there is present. What is pendative? Pendative is again, you see the pendative in other diagram, in other slide, I will show you what is pendative. Pendatives are concave triangular sections of vault. Vault is again this dome, and that provides the transition between dome and square base. So see, it has a kind of the structure. I will show with the pointer. So this is kind of the dome. Okay. So this is the onion dome, right? So what is pendative? Pendative is kind of, this is the drum. This is the dome, onion dome, and this is the finial. Okay, so when pendative is kind of the structure that joins the on this drum to the dome. It is kind of the structure that joins from dome to the drum. So this is the pendative. Then what is a squinch? Squinch is again inside. It is these are kind of the binding joints which are not basically visible from outside. It has kind of the internal architectural ornaments. Squinch is again the small arches. So whenever the entire arch is constructed or these chhajjas are constructed or built on the top of the building. So these are built with the help of not columns. These are attached with the squinch. So you see the post and lintel, there is a kind of absence of vertical columns and horizontal beams in Indo-Islamic architecture of medieval India. These are not, they never use any kind of the columns and post. Basically, they basically prominently use the squinches. Squinches are kind of the arches, small arches which are present inside the monument, inside the internally of the dome. They are present basically. So these are terminology which you should know before going to kind of studying about the architecture. And yes, so cornice is again topmost part of the entablature. Cornice, this is the topmost, but these are again when we see the Rajput features, I will explain. That time I will explain you about the Rajput kind of the architectural terminology. So everyone is clear? Hello, audience. Is clear everything to you, all of
Yes, sir.
you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, am I audible perfectly and screen is visible to
Yes,
you?
sir. Yes.
Please ask any doubts. I have kind of, this is the basic kind of that of words which are prominently, which will use in the while presentation. So is anybody having any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, so shall I move further?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Yes. See, now I will start with the dome architecture, which is dome is very important part of the Indo-Islamic architecture, basically prominently the tomb. So in the diagram, you can see I have made it very easier for you to explain the features in the form of diagram. So you can see this is the dome architecture, architectural dome. What is a dome? Dome is not kind of the separate, but dome is the architectural element of the mosque, of tomb, or any kind of the mausoleum. Cenotaph, mosque, tomb, and mausoleum. Dome is present everywhere. So dome is basically, this is the dome, onion dome. As we know that drum is again kind of, this is the basic bricks are used for construction, and you see that the bricks are completely. So you can recall that is the early medieval architectural element. What is oculus? You see on the top there is a small kind of the hole or cavity. Small aperture is present on the top. That oculus is basically a small window, basically, and it is very round and circular oval window that is used for kind of the ventilation. And again for ventilation also, and it has basically this oculus, it holds the upper top finial on the top. So basically oculus is present everywhere. It is a basic architectural element of the tomb architecture and dome. Then you see the onion hemispherical dome, as I explained you. Hemispherical dome 180 degree, which kind of surmounted on the drum, and which is kind of has bottom layer of the drum. Drum is again kind of the binding ligature that binds, that joins the dome to the arches, basically. You see the pendative. Pendative, I explained, is a concave triangular section. These are kind of the arches. So basically, how the kind of the dome is constructed, or kind of the bound by or trussed by the entire lower arches. How the arches, because in the basic prominent, we need to understand that kind of the corbelled architecture is not used. Kind of for corbelling purpose, post and lintel, kind of horizontal, like horizontal and vertical beams are not used. These are used called pendatives. Pendatives are again the small arches, basically. And pendatives are again triangular sections, concave shaped sections. You can see concave shapes. So there are kind of the two methods that for construction of the tomb, the early medieval rulers and late medieval rulers of the India they employed. So pendatives are kind of the concave shaped triangular sections that kind of joins the dome to the arches, lower part. And there are other method also squinch. I told you the squinch. Squinch are kind of the small arches. You can see the squinch. The squinch can be also used. So you can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4. So if this entire structure you can see that it is octagonal. So there are 8 squinches are used. Okay. So these are kind of the arches. These are the monument and on the top. So you can see the dome, upper part and lower part, upper body and lower body. So upper body and lower body, they are completely ligated by, they are completely bound by the squinches. These are basically hidden small arches which are used for constructing and for kind of binding the dome to the arches. So there are two elements that by kind of for construction of dome is used. Basically, one is squinches. Squinch are again you have to remember that squinches are basically the small arches, and pendatives are kind of the small triangular openings, kind of the triangular gables, kind of the triangular stones. Okay, they use. So an oculus, you know, it is a basically on top small window, round opening, circular, oval shape. Okay, which is present on the top of the cupola. Dome is again vaulted chamber, as you know, and it is kind of the surmounted. It was kind of built and surmounted by the on the drum. Drum is kind of the belt. So these are the two. Then next you see the architect elements of dome. Now you can clearly see that domes on pendatives when the rulers kind of they use different types of the techniques. Sometimes they employ the construction of the pendatives as the joining materials or ligatures. So pendatives, you can see the pendatives, this black dark shade. In the diagram, you can see pendative, kind of the ligature they use, which is complete. And when they use the squinches, for squinches, they has to construct the platform, horizontal platform. So in while kind of recalling or while keeping this image in your mind, when we'll study about the Gol Gumbaz or when we'll study about the other tombs, so you can see the prominent. So these pendatives are prominently used in Ali Bari's tomb. Ali Bari's tomb in the Bidar in Deccan Sultanate, and this tomb is used employed in Humayun's tomb, in Taj Mahal, and again prominently from the this period is basically the Gol Gumbaz. You can see the squinches. While using squinches, they have kind of constructed the kind of the squarish shaped platform. This squarish shaped platform, and on square the dome is constructed, hemispherical dome. And for pendatives, there is an absence of kind of the square shaped platform. So these are the basic elements you need to know how they constructed the tomb with the help of squinches and pendatives. Then I will move further. Types of Sultanate architectural form. There are different types of the Sultanate architecture. So first, mosques are there, minarets, tombs, forts with the citadel. This is very important that we are not talking about forts. We are not only talking about fort as a one monument, but we are talking the forts with the citadel. This is very important that when we talk about Raigad Fort, Pratapgarh Fort, Janjira Fort, any forts of the Maratha kingdom or from Maharashtra, medieval forts, we see that forts are kind of the individual isolated monument. We are calling it as with citadel. This is very important that citadel is something, the palace, the main palace, and it has kind of the various fortifications. So there is kind of the main palace at the main on the top in the center, and surround the entire village. It was kind of the enclosed and surrounded by the protective wall that is called the rampart. So in Bijapur, in Tughlakabad, similarly Fatehpur Sikri when Akbar constructed, that is the forts with citadel. This is very important that early medieval kind of the forts were basically not only confined to the main royal household, but it kind of constructed around the entire city. It has a gateway. Again, in the regional style, you see in Ahmednagar, in Bijapur, in Golconda, yes. Then again in Tughlakabad, in Fort of Siri, in north, you see there is a kind of the entire village. It was kind of protected by the rampart. Dargah. This is very important that dargahs are there. Madrasas are again the educational institutions. Rauzas are there, and darwazas. These are kind of the basic Sultan's architectural forms we'll be going to have look. Yes, then I first the tomb architecture I have covered. So in tomb architecture, basically, yes, in tomb architecture, I will we can see that basically each of the tomb it was kind of the evolved blending features of the earlier tomb with new ideas. So tomb can be classified in the two types. See, so this is the tomb as you can see. This tomb, the Pendatives tomb, this tomb is kind of the open tomb, and this tomb is kind of the closed tomb. So Taj Mahal, when we see Taj Mahal is kind of the closed tomb. Open consisting of mostly of octagonal type with pillar verandas. You can see the pillar verandas in there. And square tombs are kind of the being closed type. So when the tomb is octagonal, it has a kind of open. This is open. So it has a kind of the pillared veranda, and square shaped tombs, it's kind of the closed type. And it having the entrance. So this is one entrance, this is another entrance. So both the tombs are kind of the open shape, but when the tomb is closed, it has only one entrance. Now you can see in Ibrahim Roza, there are multiple entrances. Like from inside, you can go from one side also, from eastern side, from southern side, from northern side. So you can see there are four entrances. When the kind of the tomb, it has a four entrances, it is called as the open tomb architectural monument. And when the tomb only has a one entrance like Taj Mahal has, it is called as, or Ibrahim Roza, if we see in Bijapur, it has open tomb or mausoleum. In Taj Mahal, only one entrance is there, so it is called as closed tomb. And tomb is basically placed diagonally and oriented towards the Mecca, and is constructed with the red sandstone with the slope of wall at the kind of at an angle of always 75 degrees. This is very important that always that diagonally the when orientation of the tomb is 75 degree from the ground, and the slope could have been made to imitate the kind of the fort walls of the Tughlaqabad. So early slave dynastic tombs are basically they used to kind of imitate kind of the, so basically used to kind of try to make the as much as magnificent and grandiloquent, but it was very primitive type of the structure. And as you know, on the top the finial is there at the apex, which is again of the marble dome, and as a similar which resembles the Kalasha and Amala in Hindu temple. Again, exteriorly is decorated with the various elements like merlons. Merlons are called merlons, as we know. These are similar arches, but when the kind of the dome is surrounded by, or is kind of the constructed by having surrounding the belt of kind of the petal shaped kind of the semicircular arches. These small semicircular arches are called merlons, and again arched with square fringes doorway that has kind of sideway projection. So this is very important that tomb architecture, and basically tomb architecture of the Islamic rulers, it was generally lavishly decorated. You see the kind of geometric engravings, kind of the calligraphy employed, materials used for construction, marble and sandstone. They clad over it. But in spite of the poor economic conditions, so when we see the kind of the development of the tomb, so there is a permanent maturity of the kind of the tomb architecture. It is only visible, can be only seen in the Mughal period. And basically because as we know that the Delhi Sultanate, it was kind of the cluster of the small span kind of the dynasties which kind of the ruled. And because of that poor economic conditions in Tughlaq period, as we see, the practice of tomb building continued, but builders they were kind of the restored to the kind of inexpensive and very cheap materials like the rubble covered with the pilasters. So you as I told you that when they use the pilaster is again rectangular column. So as you know that the in Islamic architectural monument, pilaster cannot be used in a purified form, because pilaster is a kind of architectural element or used for constructing the temples. It is a rectangular column. Columns are completely absent in the tomb. So these tombs, you can see, it is basically the mature developed stage of the tomb architecture. So now we'll go further by kind of
Sir,
having insight into the. Yes, yes,
excuse me, sir. Sir,
yes, yeah, I
what
can.
type of architectural element is Mecca, the Mosque of Mecca? Pendentive or
Mosque,
squinch?
yes. See, for tomb you are asking.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
See, in tomb architecture, which please can you repeat the question? I didn't get you completely.
Uh, I asked that what type of architectural element is Mecca, the Mosque of Mecca? It's pendentive or is it squinches?
Yes, yes. See, mosque, see, tomb is basically, tomb is kind of the isolated. See, you can see the this diagram. So basically, tomb is kind of the temple, isolated temple or isolated kind of the monument. It only has two parts, the arches. These are the arches. These are the pendatives or squinches they use, the and kind of the vault. So basically, if we want to know the tomb is kind of the isolated temple. Similarly, in Islam, basically, it has a kind of the two parts. This roof is kind of the dome, and upper part are the arches, gateway. And if and it can be surrounded by the minarets. But only this is the isolated. But when we see the mosque is basically kind of the complex. You see that there are different kind of the elements that have kind of it has a mihrab, it has a minbar, again it has a minarets also on the side, and it has a courtyard. So mosque is like similar. So tomb can be part of the mosque. Okay, you understood.
Okay,
So
sir.
this
Yes, sir.
tomb is
Yes.
present. Right. See, mosque and
Thanks.
tomb, the basic difference is that the tomb basically in the appearance, in the kind of externally appearance, the tomb in Taj Mahal, I will show you this slide. This is very important. See, this is the tomb. This can be mosque. This is very one monument. You can see only one monument. Entire thing is only one monument. It doesn't have any kind of attached to the kind of garden or anything. Yes, the Taj Mahal has kind of the garden, Charbagh style of garden, but this Taj Mahal stands out as a one single isolated monument, and it has a two parts: the arches and dome as a roof and minarets. Okay, but in mosque it has a different kind of the element. So this tomb can be the mosque when it has a different kind of the architectural elements such as qibla, mihrab, minbar. When it has a kind of the minaret, minarets again are present in the this tomb architecture, and it has basically courtyard. Courtyard is very important. That courtyard public fountain. So this is very important that is absent in the tomb architecture. Tomb is a kind of present. See all the understand all the Islamic monuments, whether it's mausoleum, I told you, mausoleum, cenotaph, tomb, and mosque. All the monuments, irrespective of their function, irrespective of their construction, they have all the monuments has a kind of the dome. Dome is present everywhere. This is very important to understand the architecture. Now, when we see the mosque is very important. See, mosque is basically sacred building. Tomb is kind of the it is a kind of the sepulchral. It is kind of the sepulchral means in terms of use. They have kind of the burial chamber. Tomb is kind of the burial chamber, and monument is, and building is constructed on the top over that burial chamber. And mosque is kind of the religious construction. It is basically religious construction, and mosque is kind of a sacred building similar to the temples, and it has a different elements. So mosque has a kind of the basically sacred building used by the Muslims for prayer. So in the diagram you can see the different elements. I will explain one by one slowly. First, basically, I will like to go with the background. So from Indonesia in Southeast Asia to UK, mosque kind of the present in many of its forms, quintessential Islamic building mosque. What is basically, so it is called as a masjid in Arabic, that is a Muslim gathering place for prayer. The main function of the mosque is basically it is a monument that basically provides or that serves the function of gathering of the Muslim followers for the congregational prayers. This is a simple definition of masjid. It is a place of the prostration, kind of by when place of the prostration most of the daily 5 times, and during the prayers, the Muslims, as we know, that they briefly kneel and touch their foreheads to the ground as a sign of kind of complete submission to the will of the God, like we see in the complete surrender to the God in Bhakti movement, in kind of the Hindu philosophy also. So it's basically the most sacred place. It is a kind of the monument, and it is a kind of the complex basically. It is not one monument, it is a one complex that we need to understand, and it is a complex for the place of doing namaz, place of doing prostration by kind of kneeling towards and touching the ground as a sign of submission. So basically, as we know that Prophet Muhammad, the original house, it was in Medina. So according to that, it could be thought that the Medina could be the first mosque and probably served as a model for the early medieval, early mosque architecture. So basically, the mosques are basically in earlier times, it was completely constructed with the mud and brick, very initial. So even in temples, early temples, or kind of we see the very proto-historic or kind of early construction in ancient India, we see the use of prominent use of the mud and bricks. Even in Buddhist period, you see most of the kind of the Buddhist stupas are constructed with the Sanchi stupa, Sarnath stupa, Bodh Gaya, all the stupas you see there is a kind of the bricks are used. And when we see the kind of the stupas and Chaitya in the Kaneri caves and in Maharashtra and in South Udaygiri, we see the stupas are constructed with the kind of the stones. Similarly, architectural construction materials used for construction of the mosque. So it is basically how the structure you see the diagram. Please use kind of have a patient look at the various parts of the mosque. It is basically living quarter. We should understand that mosque is kind of the living monument. It is living quarter on one side, and it is basically you see it has on one side it is open, one side it is closed. Okay, so it is basically a rectangular courtyard, and that rectangular courtyard is basically used for it has a kind of different elements. Now see, the mosque always include the various types of architectural element. The first is a mihrab, second is a minbar, third is a minaret. As you see minaret, so minarets are present everywhere. It is attached to the mosque prominently, and it is attached to the tomb also. And ablution fountain. This is the Qibla wall. So I will explain one by one. First is basically Qibla. You see the Qibla wall. See on the Qibla wall, this is the kind of the wall. It has the kind of the grooving. It has a kind of the aperture and kind of dug out the one arch. So one arch is kind of the constructed on that wall. So what is meant by Qibla? Qibla is kind of the directions of the directions when the Muslims they use while facing towards the Mecca. So basically, if the it is a basically Qibla is simply it is a one arch. It is a simple arch that is constructed or it is carved on the wall in the direction of the Makkah, basically, and towards the Kaaba, basically in Makkah. So that Qibla wall is basically the wall of the mosque, when the Muslims they used to prostrate while doing prayers, basically. Understood what is the Qibla? Qibla is basically a simple arch, and Quranic ayats are engraved on the top of that Qibla wall. And Qibla wall, it has only the one arch, and that arch is again ornamented with calligraphy and Quranic ayats, and again gilded with the gold, water, and silver. And basically, it is a kind of the arch that shows the direction of the Makkah. So the Muslims could kind of prostrate, they could kneel, they could bend, and they could do their prayers. So this shows the direction of the Mecca. It is a one simple arch constructed and carved on the wall of the mosque. Okay, this is a one element. Now, what is a mihrab? You can see the mihrab. Mihrab is basically the niche. So Qibla is kind of the one entire this wall and this arch. That the entire thing is called as Qibla. What is mihrab? Mihrab is kind of the niche. Niche is kind of the inner part of the any kind of the cavity. This mihrab is kind of the cavity on the Qibla wall, that again indicating the same thing towards the direction of the Mecca, because it's important that it is basically mihrab is kind of the ornamented part. Okay, so it is not kind of the simple arch. This is not the simple arch. This is kind of the ornamented arch. It is an ornamented arch and highly decorative. It has a kind of inscriptions from Quran are engraved, or kind of geometric patterns, or kind of gold water is used, sometimes very expensive precious stones used. When I will explain you about the medieval art technique, the Petra Dura, the Arabesque, different techniques, inlaid mosaic work is used. So it is mihrab is kind of the arch that has a kind of the decorated, completely ornamented with the stones, jewels. So this is the mihrab. Again, it is a niche. What is a niche? Niche is again kind of the cavity that shows the direction of the Kaaba. Then we come to the minbar. What is the minbar? You can see the minbar as I have zoomed the figure. Anybody please can me tell me what you can see in the minbar structure from audience?
Sir, it looks like stairs.
Yes, absolutely. Very good. Yes, yes. So minbar is again, it is called in English, it is called as a pulpit. What is a pulpit? You can see it is a platform, and it is a kind of raised platform. It has a staircase. Absolutely right, and it has a kind of the arch. So it is a raised platform above the surrounding level, kind of to give the prominence to the person. So it is kind of the staircase where the kind of the imam, the prayer leader or mufti used to stand, and he used to kind of the call. He used to give the call to all the Islamic followers for the prayer, for gathering when he was delivering any kind of the religious sermon. So it is absolutely right that it is a staircase. Minbar is a staircase on which imam or the prayer leader or mufti, religious priest, they used to kind of deliver a sermon and used to call for the prayer on Friday prayer, after the Friday
Sir,
prayer. So it is,
sir,
yes, yes, yes.
sir means which the azan which happens, it happens from here only.
Yes, so see, there are two different kind of the places, architectural places. The first is minbar and second is minaret. Whenever they used to give the azan, they used to call from the using the tower from minaret. And while delivering the sermon, while kind of doing the namaz, and that there while reading the Quran or anything related to religious scriptures, while kind of delivering the speech, the kind of the priest, they used to stand on the staircase on this kind of the pulpit in minbar, and while kind of doing azan, they use this minaret. I will talk it. So minbar, you understood that minbar is a staircase. It is a pulpit in the form of the staircase on which the priest or imam stands while delivering the religious sermon. Okay, the next thing is very important, that minaret. Absolutely right that it is a basically, as you know, the tall tower, which is obvious, which is every time it has kind of attached to the mosque, adjacent to the mosque, and it is basically, you must be thinking then why the tower is kind of very tall from the surrounding level, because it is a kind of design to call the prayer, to call for the prayer. So while kind of doing azan, the all the kind of the Muslim kind of the brotherhood or the followers, they used to kind of a religious sermon. They used to do with the help of this from the tower, on the top of the tower, and basically issued from the mosque 5 times a day, and it can be heard loud. That's why the kind of the imam or the priest used to stand on the top floor of the minaret to give azan and to call for the prayer. And again, you see it has a kind of the conical shape of the roof, and vertically tower. Okay, and alternatively, it may be made from the roof and entrance, and is often projected with an aid of the microphones and speakers. Basically, nowadays, so minaret is again visual symbol of the Islam. This is very important that it is again minaret, mosque is again kind of the religious architectural elements. Now you see the portal and shan. Okay, this part you see, again you see there is a fountain, ablution fountain. This entire part is kind of the courtyard. This part is closed, but for kind of in diagram they have kind of the not shown the roof, but this is closed part and this is open courtyard. Courtyard is very important, that distinguishes tomb from the mosque, because every other structure is there. Minaret is also there. Again, portal is also there, but ablution fountain and minbar, these kind of the absent in the tomb architecture. The Sahan is kind of the courtyard. It is basically the most mosques they contain the public fountain. It is called ablution fountain. Ablution fountain means what? What's the meaning of ablution? Like in Hindu, we know the sacred bathing rituals. Like people used to take a dip in the Ganges water in north, in Godavari in the south, um, in Maharashtra, in Pandharpur. We know the ghats kind of the construction, architectural element constructed on the banks of rivers. And water has a kind of the sacred thing. It is water of the river. Some of the rivers has Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati. We kind of consider as very sacred and holy. Even in Islam, similarly, water construction is kind of the made in the mosque, in the courtyard. It is called as the ablution fountain. Ablution fountain means it is kind of the ritual washing, not complete bath, not complete bath, but kind of the ritual washing of the hands, feet, face, and hands, feet, face, and mouth. Basically, these are required before the prayer. And in arid lands of the Arabia, as we know that it is complete desert region. Geographically, it is very desert. Water is scarce, so that's why ablution is only used for kind of the only the hands and feet washing, not for complete bathing. In India, India is a land of the rivers, but in desert in Arabia, in Middle East countries where the Islam originated, there the water is completely scarce. It is not available everywhere. That's why the ablution fountain kind of concept they have kind of incorporated only to wash the legs, only to wash the hands, not everything. And it is basically again the symbolic meaning that alluding the four rivers of the paradise in the Quran, mentioned in the Quran. So these are the structural elements of the mosque. Have you understood everything, all structural elements? And portal is a kind of the entrance. Okay, this is the portal, one entrance. And you can see these are the colonnade kind of the structure. These are the colonnade pillars used for kind of, so in Jami Masjid, you can see the entire that courtyard is surrounded by the colonnade. Understood everything till now?
So yes, sir. So this minaret is also seen in mosque or
Yes,
only
I
in
will explain
monuments?
that. No,
Uh,
no. See, minaret is, see, I will tell you. See, minarets, firstly, their next is kind of the, after mosque, I will tell you. Yeah. See, minaret, basically, these are isolated towers also, like Qutub Minar, isolated monument. Okay. In Chand Minar, in Daulatabad Fort, it is again isolated monument. Then, second place that minarets are also attached to the mosque, as we see. This is a minaret attached. It has a religious kind of the meaning. It has a religious construction used for kind of for calling for prayer. Second thing, it is again attached to the tomb, as we seen in earlier slide. It has again kind of the small, the tomb is surrounded by the four minarets at the four corners. Okay, so minaret is an isolated monument also. It is attached to the mosque also, and it is a part of tomb also. Okay, clear?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Then I will again mosque architectural elements. Again, this is the you can see very clearly in the diagram the fountain entrance. See, this is a courtyard. See, it has again tomb. Okay, it has again tomb. Again, it has a minaret. So again, you see the minaret. Sometimes it may be attached to the separate this one, and when they are kind of attached to the tomb on the dome side, on the entrance, on the gateway, it is called as a turret. Turret are kind of the small slender, and in other term it is called as guldasta. Okay, and as you know that this is the niche, main prayer hall. This is the main prayer hall, and so this is the niche, and this is the kind of the mihrab. So this is the mihrab. As you can see the mihrab over here, and it's showing the direction towards the Mecca. So all the people, all the Muslim followers, they used to prostrate in this prayer hall towards the direction of the Mecca. And this is the minaret, as you see. This is the courtyard. This is the ablution fountain. So it is basically open, and you can see there is only one entrance. This is the entrance. This is again fountain. So basically, it has a two entrance. It has one entrance, but mostly it has a courtyard which is open, and it is kind of the dome, which is religiously constructed, and which is basically that niche, that that kind of the wall shows the direction. This is the arch. So this arch shows the direction of the Mecca. And again, in this part, you can see in maximized this section. This is the minbar pulpit where the kind of the priest used to stand and to kind of deliver the religious sermon while doing prayer. And this is the Qibla wall. This is the Qibla wall, as you see. And this is the courtyard. So as these are all mosque architectural elements. Okay. And this is called a sahan or courtyard. It has a ablution tank and it has a colonnade pillars also sometimes. Okay. Then I will move further. What is the difference between Indian and Islamic architecture elements? In the figures in diagram you can see. I was talking about the post and lintel. In Hindu system, there is a use of the post and lintel. See, first entrance. How the entrance you see in this? Please, anyone tell me what shape of the entrance the monument has, tomb or mosque has, and what shape of the entrance the temple has. Please tell me the difference. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. So the
Please
mosque
Yes.
tell
has
me the
a dome type
yeah. No,
entrance.
entrance. I'm talking about entrance. I'm talking about only entrance. This entrance. This entrance I'm talking about. This entrance. See, this is this entrance. So, what type of the entrance the Islamic monument or kind of the tomb or mosque has, and what type of the entrance the temple has? Please tell me.
Uh, can I say?
Yes, yes, sure, sure.
Yeah, tomb or mosque or any place of, I mean, the Islamic architecture has arches, prominent
Very
arches,
good. Very
columns.
yes, very good.
And
And yeah,
temples mostly have a frame structure like columns and lintels or beams.
very good, very good. So I you have I think the basic concept of the Hindu architecture and Islamic architecture is clear. So you can see absolutely very furnished answer that one of the student has given. In entrance, you see in Hindu style, these are the lintels. These are kind of the posts. So horizontal and vertical, only the columns are used. These are called as the post and lintels. Posts are kind of the vertical columns. Okay, and lintel is basically horizontal roof. So post and lintel. And in Islamic architecture, it has prominent arches, pointed arches are used, which kind of the surmounts the dome. And basically this type of the style is called as Trabeat style, and this type of style is called arcuate style of architecture. This is very important. Top, what is the kind of the bolt that is used in Hindu temple, in Indian architecture? This is called Shikhara or Gopuram, you can see, or Vimana in Dravida style, and in Nagara style of temple architecture, this is Shikhara. So this is the kind of the Shikhara used, which is after on the top of this post and lintel, on the top surmounted by the Shikhara. And in the Islamic architecture, hemispherical dome is used for vaulting roof. Minars are completely absent in Hindu architecture, and minars are completely present in Islamic architecture. What type of material used for construction of the Hindu temples? Stones are prominently used. And what type of construction used? Brick, lime, mortar as a cementing agent. This is very important that they use the brick and lime. And in temples, all the caves and ancient temples they constructed with the help of stones. Okay, so these are the basic differences of uh, entrance and top is very important. These first 2 points, the shikara is there, dome is there, post and lintel method is used, and arches are used. Then this is the architectural layout of the madrasa. So what is the madrasa? Madrasa is again religious educational institution. This is very important that we should know what is the basically the madrasa. It is a kind of the institutions for teachings of various Sunni rites. Madrasa they sprang up in 9th and 10th century, primarily kind of to fight the Shia heresy. And first we see the appearance of this madrasa in the Egypt, in the lands of the Seljuk Turks and the Egypt. These are basically these are educational institutions similar to the Nalanda, Takshashila, Vikramshila universities, Buddhist monasteries, or we had, or Gurukula system, Pathshala system we had. Similarly, these are monuments only for this construction is only meant for giving kind of the imparting the education. Okay, so as you see, basically, uh, as a Turks, we know that they brought with them with the west to the west with an ardent desire to use the madrasas for teaching purpose. So this is basically the teaching education institution, and you can see it has again courtyard and it has a different kind of the chamber. So this is kind of the one monument, and you we can see there is a during the allowed Khilji period there is a kind of the madrasa we see Khilji period Tughlaq period we see the rise of the madrasa. So madrasa are basically are educational institutions. The monument it has a kind of different. See, basic architecture elements of the madrasa is basically it has a two elements. The first is a courtyard. The first is central courtyard, and it is surrounded by the different chambers. So on kind of the southern side, you can see the different kind of the columns, different kind of the chambers, different kind of the kiosk. And on northern side, you can see the original mihrab. So first important that it is not kind of the secular education. This madrasa, it is basically the religious education. So only important that again it has a original prayer hall is there, similar to the kind of the mosque. So it has only it has a prayer hall also, and it has a basically the courtyard also. So madrasa architecture and the mosque architecture is very much similar in terms of it has a firstly both the architectural monuments serves the function of religion. Second important element, it has a courtyard in the center. Both the monuments, mosque and madrasa has a courtyard which is called Sahan. Third important, again it has a prayer hall. So again, if it is the monument is having prayer hall, so it again has an arch. So this is again it has an arch. You see, and if it has a prayer hall, then that prayer hall is used for kind of the prostration for doing namaz, and that faces the direction of the Mecca. So again in madrasa we can see the prayer hall. Again there is a mihrab. You see there is a presence of the mihrab. Mihrab is again this arch. You can see this arch, small arch that points the direction of the Mecca. Again, it has a various mihrabs and prayer halls for the all the Islamic followers used to prostrate, doing their Islamic prayers. And again, different tombs are attached. So we can see that there is very much similarity in madrasa and the mosque architecture. It has a courtyard, it has a mihrab which shows the direction of the Mecca, and again it has a minaret. It doesn't have minaret, only the absence that it doesn't have minaret, but it has a tomb, it has a dome, it has a courtyard, and so this is very two similar religious architectural monuments of the kind of the from Indo-Islamic period. Okay, have you understood the entire madrasa architecture? Okay,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
understood the similarity. Okay, then I will move further with yes. Uh, Now I have completed. Yes, I will move further with uh, yes minaret architecture. Before kind of moving ahead, basically we will take a break. Then in next session we will start with the minaret architecture.